Hey, everybody, and welcome back to what is now our third episode of Gratefully Inconvenienced. I'm so happy you are joining me today as we go ahead and tackle some layered topics for today's episode, which will be centered around the mind. It's going to be focused on reframing our thoughts and our way of thinking, as well as shifting our perspective and what we need to put in place in order to be successful at doing that. So, in our last episode, we were talking about our non negotiables and establishing good habits throughout our everyday life that could set us up for success, giving us structure, giving us routine to depend on throughout the day. And so, today is just about introducing you to the first steps in doing the internal work and really bringing everything full circle. Our two main topics of focus today are going to be spirituality and intuition, and how those two focus areas are reframing our mind, changing our way of thinking. So, our first category, spirituality. When I think of spirituality, I think of the very reason I am able to successfully regulate my mental and emotional health. Having a spiritual background has taught me the importance of believing in a higher power. I think it's really easy for us as human beings to live in ignorance and think that we are the superior beings in this entire world. However, we understand that we are just a product of what something much more grand than ourselves has created. And so understanding that there is a higher power that intentionally lays out the path and purpose of every single individual on this planet is having spirituality. And although God may look differently for a lot of people, the one common denominator is love. And that is something that we can all relate to, if anything else. And so, other than spirituality beautifully reminding us of something greater than us existing and protecting us and guiding us in this lifetime, it's also the driving force behind our moral compass. Understanding that God is love and spirituality is centered around the concept of love, it shapes you into a better person. Our ego and our pride are things that we were born with as human beings, and they have this ability to influence our behavior and how we choose to respond to a lot of different situations. But having a strong spiritual foundation helps us to recognize when those egotistical thoughts attempt to interrupt our thought process. And when we are grounded in love and we intentionally apply love to every situation, our spirituality then helps us to strip the authority from our ego and our pride and our fear. Fear is also something that influences us in a negative way, but ultimately love prevails because it is the universal language that brings us together. It has the power to connect all of us on a much more profound level than anything else. And when we choose to embrace love as our primary form of communication with ourselves and with one another, we're just able to launch ourselves into a more meaningful existence in this world, in this lifetime. My spirituality helps build understanding. It increases my compassion for those around me. And all of those things heavily influence my perspective, how I see the world, how I see people, how I view certain situations. It's easy to feel attacked from something someone says as your first response, rather than this person is just looking out for me. This person is just trying to protect me. And I'm not saying that's the case every time, But I think it's important for us to remain open and receptive at all times so that we leave room for love to be the first line of communication in every situation. So my spirituality has gifted me with the ability to find the light in every situation, to uncover the blessing in every experience that initially may not seem like a good one. And being able to do that has, in the long run, brought me so much internal peace. And really quickly, I do want to shine light on having faith as well, because faith goes hand in hand with spirituality. In order to believe in a higher power, you have to have faith. And the definition of faith is believing in something that is not seen. And the reason why faith is so crucial when you are talking about shifting your perspective and your mentality is because if you are able to believe in something that you cannot physically see, then you've just discovered the trigger to opening your third eye. Because now, instead of being able to view things from the literal sense of every other person, you can see God in other ways. You don't need to see God in order to see God. I saw God in those canceled plans after the venue was shut down. I saw God in that employer who rejected me, which later left my availability open to be accepted into a place that was better suited for me. That's what faith is, being able to see God outside of our literal and physical ability. Because God shows up all the time, but if we don't believe and we don't have faith, we will miss it. And that brings me into the second most important part about shifting our perspective, and that is signs and intuition. The most beautiful part about being a woman is our different gifts that make us the unique beings that we are. Other than being able to grow and create life and bring life into this world, one of those gifts is also our intuition. That saying, a woman's intuition, is not just a saying. There's layers behind that. And the woman's intuition is an extension of our root chakra, because all of those feelings start from our womb. When you get that literal gut feeling about a person or a situation, it starts there. And we receive these messages in real time. If faith is absent from your mind, then you won't be able to activate that. You won't be able to recognize when God is trying to speak to you, when God is trying to get through to you. I truly believe that our intuition is a direct channel of communication to God. And I'm sure that we can all recall a time where we have been at our wits' end and we have just asked God to send us a sign. Show us a sign that you see me, you're here for me, and God will answer every time. We will receive those messages, but a lot of the times we ignore them. We are ignorant to them. But then we place justification on them and dumb them down as maybe that's not what that really is, or maybe I'm just that, but in reality, that feeling wouldn't have even existed or come about if there wasn't truth in that. So being grounded spiritually and acquiring faith and the ability to believe in what's not seen, opening up your third eye and its capacity to recognize the signs of God being everywhere, that is the moment we start to view our life differently. That's the moment that we finally get ourselves out of the way so that we can be properly guided toward what it is that we are trying to reach, which is ultimately peace and happiness. I know a lot of times we've mentioned reclaiming our power. However, that doesn't always look the same in every situation. Taking several steps back and simply trusting in our higher power to move us forward. trusting that our higher power has already laid out a path for us, trusting that our higher power understands what our purpose is, and we just have to remain obedient to ourselves and what it is that we've been called to do. So when it comes to successfully shifting our perspectives, we have to keep in mind our faith and our spirituality and our intuition, and how all of these gifts contribute to us being able to reframe our way of thinking. Ultimately, this brings us back to the call of action that I talked about in our last episode, where we have this same call to action every single day. It is ongoing work. It does not stop. In a world that pulls us in various direction, it's absolutely essential to take a moment and really learn who it is that we are, really take a moment to connect with our inner selves and understand where it is that God is leading us rather than all of these other external forces around us. Because it can get hard. It can be very tempting to go along with something over here that looks really great and enticing, and at the end of the day, there's only one direction that has our best interest in mind, and we can't allow a moment of weakness to let us forget that. Our spirituality, which overall encompasses our beliefs and our morals and our values, is something much more greater than ourselves, and ultimately plays a huge role when it comes to shaping our perspectives. And like I said, alongside our spirituality is our intuitive reasoning that helps us to make decisions that align with who we are and what those values and those beliefs are. So if we bring non-negotiables as well as these internal structures and this spiritual and intuitive foundation that we have for ourselves, we will be able to successfully reframe our way of thinking, and we won't be so simple-minded or closed-minded when it comes to that. We'll be able to see the world in the way that God intends for us to see it. So that is pretty much what I wanted to share with you for this third episode. I just once again felt it was essential for us to break down what this journey looks like. If we're going to go on the journey, then it would help to have a step-by-step game plan of what we can do in order to reach our destination of just having a more fulfilling life. And it's important for us to recognize the gifts that we have and that we've been blessed with, and that we don't let those things go to waste. We want to utilize them and drive them to reach their full potential so that we get where we desire to be. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode, and I hope you were able to take something away from this today. Once again, don't forget to share, subscribe, comment. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you're thinking. Share this video with someone you love, and I will see you guys in our next episode. Peace and love.